Welcome to the Courage to Be podcast with Tanya Vasallo. Before we get into this episode, I want to share with you that I'm on a mission to close the gender gap in the podcasting world so that more and more women's voices are heard. If you feel that this is something you value too, then please rate, review, and share the podcast. And in exchange, and as my way to say thank you to you, I want to give you free access to my signature course called Manifesting Abundance, which typically sells for $997. All you have to do to gain access is leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, take a snapshot of it, and send it to help.thecouragetobe@gmail.com, and we'll get you set up with access to the course. Welcome back to the Courage to Be, where we have powerful conversations to transform your life and your business. And today we have Mary Sullivan with us. Thank you for being with us today, Mary. Welcome.
So excited, Tanya. Thank you for inviting me.
This is so exciting because we were just talking right before our interview that we both happen to go to the same university, St. Louis University, and it has a campus. You do 2 years in Spain and 2 years in the States. So maybe the podcast will end up going in that direction, but we're looking for a love that she lost back in that time. So we're on the lookout. Eduardo, we are going to find you. And if we do, or when we do, we'll do a follow-up with this. But Mary, share with us, what kind of work do you do? What's your journey? How did you end up where you're at right now?
Well, I have to say, Tanya, it truly did start with my love and passion in Madrid, in Spain. And it was all about wanting to help women. I knew throughout all my career, I studied political science, I studied Spanish, and I had at the heart of myself is, I really want to help empower women. And I didn't really have that phrase at the time, right? You didn't know that in the 80s or 90s that I wanted to empower women. You just really knew that there was a gap in what we were able to accomplish and how we were invited into the business world. And you wanted to fill that gap. So in doing that, I started my career teaching. And I started teaching. I wanted to give back to the community that was so gracious to me. So after college, I started teaching. But then I soon realized that that was not going to be my path, because not only did I want to work in a meritocracy, I also wanted to get paid. And if anybody knows teachers, it's just not enough salary for me as a single mother to support my family and to earn the type of income I wanted to do. So I had to look around and say, well, what do I want to do? And I fell into it, the financial services. And I fell into it because I joined a temporary agency. And the first placement I had was at a financial services, Charles Schwab. I didn't even know what it was. I thought, okay, well, I can really do anything, right? I mean, if you're going to teach me, I can learn and I'll, apply the skills. And what I learned was so vast. I learned all about financial literacy. I learned all about the stock market. And I was just enthralled with it. And that hunger and curiosity for learning, paired with really wanting to help women advance, really propelled me in my career at Schwab. I went through the management program and then was soon launched, through many opportunities across the globe in order to advance not only investing, but specifically advancing for women and other underrepresented groups. So that started my passion. And that's where I spent the majority of my career, was in the financial services. But also through that, I realized, wow, I'm really able to affect and impact certainly a lot of women, but I could do even more if I had my own business. I could do even more if I partnered with two of my colleagues who had a similar passion and purpose and really expand that in another direction. And we did, and we created Sweet But Fearless, which is where I focus my time now, on really empowering women to move up in their career the way that they want to move up. And up could be sideways, up could be stepping out, meaning move up so that they can get the most out of their career. We do that through educational courses, trainings, blogs, podcasts, in many different ways, one-on-one coaching. And it's all about understanding where you are, where you want to be, and then how do you fill that gap in order to get there. So that's what I focus on now. It's really helping women advance in their career.
That is fabulous. Can you tell us some stories of that you've encountered women, are they mostly professional, at a specific type of job, and then they want to go into their own business? Because I'd be very curious to hear, after living here in the States now for over 20 years, and just kind of comparing both of the countries, in Spain and the States, there's just certain things that I feel like, even though this is such, advanced country, in the States, it's so behind than other things like maternity leave. And so more and more women, are not getting paid or not having flex hours for like single moms, or even just moms in general, or parents that need to juggle family and they don't have flex hours and stuff. So I feel like the States is not as advanced as other like European countries, especially the Northern European countries, give a lot of, vacation time, flex hours, maternity leave, and all these things. And what I've observed is a lot of women wanting to flee and leave their corporate jobs in order to start their own businesses. So I'm curious to hear some of the stories of maybe your clients, or have you helped them navigate within corporate, or like what's been like the percentages for you? And can you share some of those stories with us?
I certainly can, Tanya, and I'll start with my own, and I'll definitely weave in about others as well. Because I think for most of us entrepreneurs or business owners, a lot of what we do and why we do it, when we reflect backwards, we're saying, wait, that's because I experienced that, or that's because I had that problem, or I observed that, and now I'm trying to help solve that. And it's very similar. When I started out in the financial services, as you could probably assume, I was the only woman in the office, or one of a few, or all of the women were in the operational support roles and all the men were in the finance roles and talking to the clients and investing the money. That was easy to observe and easy to say, no, I want to be at the table. I want to make more money. So therefore I need to interact with the clients and learn about the business. As we say in our business, I wanted to get closer to the money. So once that happened, and then I was able to progress, then I was able to turn around and bring up others. But I'll tell you a story about how I realized not only the pay gap, but how leaders thought at the time. We were talking about bonuses, and at the time, bonuses were given out based on your production and also based on your contribution to the team in your branch office, like a branch setting. So think of it like a sports team or any other type of team. And when I received my bonus, I was like, hey, this is kind of light. I was expecting a little more. And he said, well, Mary, we have to give, something to everybody. And I said, well, do we really? Because if they weren't doing the work, why are they getting a bonus? A bonus, you always told me, was above and beyond. And we all know that, there was a couple individuals that really didn't contribute at all. So I think I should get their portion. And he sat there and he was just like, well, that's not how I've ever done it. And I said, well, you need to think about that, because if bonus is above and beyond, and I and others were picking up all of their work, then we should also pick up their bonus. I mean, this is how the attachment works. And he reflected and he did make a change, increased my bonus, as well as started talking to the team more about, look, this isn't going to be a everybody gets something type, environment. This is going to be bonus based on the actual work that you do, et cetera. And here's more goals. And he started putting more expectation and goals to it. And I think when we do that, Tanya, that starts to create a level playing field, right? He took out well, this is the way I always did it, or I always gave this to the men because they had a family, or I always gave it to so-and-so because of this, and started applying actual, not only logic, but facts and reality and data, so that the playing field became equal. Once he did that, our branch started rising and became one of the top producing branches. And then others in the company started looking at him as a leader saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? And when he shared what he was doing, that made a change overall in the company. So this is how I believe women can make a lot of change if we trust our gut, look at around us what's going on, and have valid reasons for why we believe there should be a change. And then again, observe how that change has affected. So when I saw not only that impact, when I start coaching and helping other women in other industries, that's one of the first places I start with. And it tends to happen in industries where it's mostly male dominated, which, other than teaching and nursing, can be many industries in the United States, especially if they're high paying jobs. And ask them to start looking around. Do you have goals set? Are there expectations for your job role? Is there pay transparency? Which, as you stated so eloquently, yes, the United States lags behind in many ways. And that was one of them, pay transparency. But we're now getting there to where, companies have to say what is the actual range. This is the price for that job, the value of that job, not the value 5% over what you made in your previous job, right? This is the value of that job today. all of this I ask them to do: reflect, reflect, and then start thinking, where can you make an impact? Where can you make a change? Where can you build allies around you to help you, affect this change? And then how can you track that change so that you can demonstrate it made an impact, and then others can also implement it? That's one of the stories I wanted to share with you about how we can all make a difference if we take the time to reflect why it's going on, what's happening, who's making those decisions, and then how we can affect that change.
This is fabulous because, first off, kudos to you for standing up for yourself, because for you standing up for yourself and just getting curious, asking questions, look at the impact you had for yourself, but the ripple effect that you had for everyone else, for the corporation, so it really is when women, we start thinking like, oh, well, it's not really going to matter. Or what does it matter if I say anything? They're not going to listen. Like, we really have to challenge those limiting beliefs to see what impact we could have, because we have no idea. So thank you for sharing that story, Mary. It's reminding me, there's two episodes that come to mind for me. One was Kelly O'Keefe. It's episode 26. It was about balancing career and personal life as a woman. So if you haven't listened to that episode, to the listener, for you, Mary, but it's interesting because she's a millennial. So she was coming from a different perspective of like wanting to create a family, like she's in her mid-30s, I believe, if I recall correctly, and wanting to create that and then shifting into entrepreneurship. So I'm curious, because you did that for yourself. Are the majority of the clients that you work with in corporate, or are they entrepreneurs, or they're a mix? And can you share some stories of women that have shifted from being in corporate and being like, kind of like Kelly, like I was saying in this episode, where she was like, I'm done. There's another episode, Jen Jossie, she actually specializes, I think that's episode 35, if I remember correctly, but that's called From Employee to Entrepreneur, Discover Your Path to Success, and she helps people also similar but different than you, because I think they hook them up with like different franchises and stuff that they could start out.
Yeah.
But share with us, please, like some of the stories of women that have transitioned, and what percentages are there of that? Are the majority of your clients still in corporate and just growing within that? Like, what does it look like, Mary?
So the makeup of our client base is, especially when we think about our podcast listeners, are mostly in corporate. About 75% are corporate. The other 25% are entrepreneurs. And I would say of that 25%, about 15% came in as entrepreneurs. They've always been entrepreneurs. They started maybe in their early 30s, maybe after about 5 or 7 years in corporate, and then switched. And the other 10% are definitely those that have migrated over, I say, from corporate to entrepreneur. And all of the stories, I will say almost to a T, I don't think there's one exception actually that I've worked with, have started in corporate or government or nonprofit, but in the traditional 9 to 5, and have said, for balance of life, flexibility of hours, and truly owning their own destiny, owning that outcome, especially the financial outcome. They wanted to be the driver of that. And then they pivoted, almost all of them. And I certainly say that in my coaching as well. I'm like, pivot while you're still working. I pivoted a couple of times. And the first time I left one, started, my own business. And I said, the next time I won't do it that way. I will start it while I'm working, right? I will test out waters, do some of that research, and really do a lot of things that you can do while you're still holding down a job, and then launch. That's definitely a piece of advice I give the women that I work with, as well as really finding out what is it that you want to do. When we talk about what is your passion, one thing is, what do you like? Okay, that's one thing, but also it's, what do you want to spend your day doing, right? What do you like, but how do you want to spend your day? Because as we know, as entrepreneurs, you're spending your day doing multiple things, probably wearing many hats. You're the marketer, the financer, right? You are the strategic planner, you're the tax accountant. And certainly you can, of course, ask others to help you with that, or, consign that out to others. But a lot of your day is doing different things, and you figuring out how you want to spend your day is very important. So when we look at that percentage that's moving over to entrepreneur, I'll also tell you, Tanya, it's growing. It's growing because a lot of the women in corporate America are saying, look, I was working more from home and now I'm coming back into the office and I don't want to do it. I don't want to come back into the office full time. I want that flexibility. So the corporation that I've invested in isn't going to provide me that flexibility anymore. I'm going to start looking for what will. And usually what will is having your own business, right? So you can design how you want to work. They're also looking and saying, I made an impact in this way in corporate America. I believe I can either make the same impact or even a bigger one in another way and choose who I serve. That's another big point that women are saying. I want to choose who I serve. We all know working in corporate America, you're serving whoever is teed up for you, right? Your client base is whatever the corporation puts in front of you. Maybe sometimes you can go out and build your own client base, but a lot of times it's teed up for you. When you have your own business, you get to choose who you serve and how you serve it. So that's where I see a lot of the migration and the why moving over to entrepreneur. A lot are starting in small steps and then deciding if they want to make that big leap, right? If they want to give up that comfort. And there is some comfort in getting that paycheck every 2 weeks. There is comfort in having corporations contribute to your 401k. There is comfort in some of the additional benefits. There's a lot of comfort in that. Really taking that leap to giving that up and stepping into your own is a big leap, both mentally and physically. And so making that leap, we talk about, do you have a plan? Do you have the resources? And have you built a community to help, support you while you make that leap? So I hope that answers that question. But I would say about the ones that are migrating over from corporate to entrepreneurship are really making a educated decision, I think, more than a pulling the trigger kind of decision at previous years.
Yeah, this is fascinating. And thank you for sharing this. We're going to take a quick pause and we'll be right back. I want to share an amazing opportunity, my signature event, Increase Your Income and Impact. It's happening May 31st through June 1st, of Thursday through Saturday, in person in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And this event will be infusing it with a ton of the success principles from Napoleon Hill. You will walk away after these 3 days shifting your mindset from not enough money to manifesting on the spot. You'll also learn how to get over your fear of visibility in sales so that you can have a greater impact in the world. These in-person events are life transforming, and you can now get your early bird ticket with the code LUCKY24 and save $400 for a limited time. I look forward to seeing you there. Just listen to what some of the participants have to say about it.
Tanya is a genius at weaving together people's talents, excavating the things that hold them back, helping them let go of their barriers and feel free to really accomplish what they want to do. And I know many of the people who attended this were so excited to sign up for her extended program. If you look honestly at yourself, if you're willing to express what it is that you feel has held you back in a very honest way, you will leave without that. You will shed that, and you will be freer. I don't think there's anything you could do with your time that would equal this, even if it wasn't for career development, if it was solely for personal development as a human being. I think you should sign up and take this course. It's amazing.
So you were talking about guiding these women shifting from corporate into having their own business, because like you were saying, there is a comfort of having a regular paycheck, being able to contribute to your 401k. What advantages and disadvantages have you noticed from corporate versus being an entrepreneur?
So yeah, I'll add to let's say the cons of a corporate, is sometimes, depending on where you work, is the panache of saying, I work at Google, I work at Charles Schwab, right? Naming a recognizable brand, not only maybe in the US, but even globally, there is something to that to say you work there. Because when you think about it, there is a very long and hard process in order to go through the interviews and get selected at a lot of companies. Even mid-sized companies have a lot of arduous interview process. So for you to be able to say that you came out on the winning end of that, that's really something to be proud of. So there's that part of being in a corporation, that you were chosen, you were selected, and therefore, invited to be on the team. A big advantage, because that can also help and boost your self-confidence, which we know, Tanya, helps us a lot, right? And that courage, right? And moving forward is having that confidence in that area. Besides the financial benefit is the built-in community, right? You're working with others. You have these colleagues, you're collaborating a lot. And a lot of times you're collaborating even with vendors or outside companies. So you're getting exposed to a lot of thought leaders in your industry and in some cases beyond your industry. That's priceless, right? That's what a benefit of working for a corporation can add to you. I know an individual that did the math on, so I don't know, this one might be a con and a pro, on medical benefits, because she found when she wasn't working in the corporation and was on her own, her actually monthly benefits were less expensive going out into the marketplace than they were paying the subsidy inside the corporation. But in some corporations, if that is one of their focuses, it could also be the benefits, not only medical, but many offer educational benefits, like up to $10,000 a year towards an MBA program or continuing education. They also offer many what we call employee benefits, such as mental, working with psychologists, psychiatrists, and really helping the family with counseling. So those are a lot of the pros that you get when working for a corporation. Now, it used to be you could count on that paycheck every 2 weeks, but we know there's a lot of layoffs, especially in the tech world and financial world. So having that 2-week paycheck isn't always as stable as it used to be. But let's put that still in the con, that if you are employed and you have a contract, you're getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. And some of the disadvantages, right? Disadvantages can certainly be, at the end of the day, you are working for someone else. So their priorities have to be your priorities, right? What they want to be done and accomplished has to be what you're doing. So even if you think there's a better way and a different way and a more inclusive way, you can maybe offer up that suggestion. But unless those that are in the decision-making room and have that authority, unless they decide, yes, it's not going to change. So you may end up doing work that you don't even think is valuable anymore. That can be very defeating to us, especially as women. We like having a purpose for what we're doing. And if we think what we're doing really adds no value, that just becomes a spiral downward. That's definitely one of the disadvantages. And we talked about earlier, but I'll expand on it, the whole work-life balance. I think that's the number one disadvantage. I was a single mother. Believe me, I needed a village. I needed a village all the time to help me and balancing the work hours. Many times I didn't even tell them I had a child because I didn't want that to affect their decisions in choosing me for opportunities. So if I didn't know that leader when I was interviewing, I never even mentioned it because I knew that they would probably hold me back from different opportunities if they thought I was a single mother. And then therefore their minds are going to, well, how's she going to handle childcare? How's she going to handle this? How's she going to handle that? And my point was, get me the job. I figure out the rest. That's on me. But a lot of times that is a huge disadvantage, is the work-life balance, being a single parent, taking care of elderly parents, all of that. Having any kind of need outside of the corporate need is a disadvantage because they expect you to put everything first for them. And the word balance really doesn't enter into their language. So I found that to be very huge, especially when the respect for the requests for time off. So when we talk about disadvantages, depending on how you would ask for time off was always a way that in corporate America, you had to couch your ask. May I take time off for do this? And I thought, well, wait a minute. I think I earned that time. It's like, may I get Social Security? I paid into that. I shouldn't have to ask for it. Same thing for time off. But they would make you go through this process of bidding for your time off, asking for your time off, no to these dates, almost like you were on an airline, using your points. No, these are blackout dates. You can't take this day off. Well, everybody wants days off around the holidays because we all want to extend the time with our family. So why don't we, manage our business around that? Why don't we set expectations to our clients that we're going to have a lean staff because we're giving our employees time off? Wasn't heard of. Huge disadvantages because a lot of times it caused you as the employee to take time off when you really didn't want it, use it in a way that wasn't beneficial to the overall family. And when you did get it, you were still stressed out because you felt like you were given this huge gift to actually have a third day off during the holiday. And your mind didn't even get time off to, decompress. So you still weren't really on vacation. Huge disadvantage. And I don't think the corporates really figured that one out yet. I thought after the pandemic and really learning that we can work from home, we can work in hybrid situations, all these jobs. I know I worked in industry where they insisted I could never work from home. I mean, never. And boy, 2 weeks into the pandemic, we were all working from home and it worked out great. So I thought, I think we should challenge more things that we've said never can do. But now going back into the office, even jobs that can still be done from home, the insistence is still there in many companies now to come back into the office. So it's also, I believe, leaving out a lot of women. Women carried the brunt during the pandemic, the brunt of not only, of course, housework, right? We know that one, but homework, right? We did a lot of things for our children. We were the teachers. We were supporting, I mean, many, of course, teachers online, but we were also supporting them with that additional training. We were taking care of our elderly parents or our neighbors, right? We were making sure our community was safe and fed and nurtured. All of that we were taking on. We were able to do that because we had more of that flexibility. Well, now corporate's taking a lot of that back. So I think there's going to be a big effect on that. And again, that's one, in my opinion, of the disadvantages of corporate versus entrepreneur. Now, we all know an entrepreneur, a big disadvantage is money, right? Having that capital, having that seed money. A lot of times we follow all of the predictions and we say, okay, save enough to carry me for 2 years, but maybe it's 3 years. Maybe you started a business during the pandemic that didn't flourish during the pandemic. Well, then maybe you needed 4 or 5 years of seed money. Money is usually the number one thing that affects us as entrepreneurs. But the number two thing, and I'll fight for that, maybe 1.5, is planning. Planning, Tanya. A lot of entrepreneurs don't plan. They don't have a business plan. They don't have a financial plan. They don't have a taxation plan. They don't have a marketing plan. They don't have a plan. They don't have a plan for how they're going to run their business or plan for what ifs if other things happen. So those are two of the disadvantages I feel on the entrepreneur side.
So how do you direct when you're working with your clients? Do you sit down if they're transitioning into entrepreneurship? I mean, I heard you say before that maybe do that transition while they're still working. I think that's a great piece of advice because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm done and I'm quitting. And like you said, no plan, no capital, like no idea where their money is going to come from and how that's going to fund the business. And it's just on this hope that it'll all be amazing, and so do you sit down with your clients and create those plans with them and talk about money and how they can fund their business, or how does that work? Like if someone were working with you, Mary.
Thank you for asking that, Tanya. So first of all, I'm going to say to everybody, if you don't know about SCORE, which is a national free organization that also partners with Small Business Association in the United States, helps a lot of entrepreneurs, free workshops, free trainings, and I volunteer for them and deliver Marketing 101. And in that course that we do for SCORE, I cover a lot of things that I also cover in my business. So it'll be the same. So I'm going to talk about my business now, but I also want to tell everybody there's a great place where they can get a lot of free information and start finding out what I don't know. Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, we need to know what we don't know. Because we think we know a lot, and we do, about what we're doing, but maybe we don't know a lot about the whole business. And that will help you fill those gaps. And then you can say, okay, here's what I need to do. So that's the first thing I actually do when I'm talking to any individual. And the format that I use with my clients is very similar, whether you're in corporate or entrepreneur, because we also preach to our clients that you should have an entrepreneurial mindset when you're in corporate. You should approach it as if it's your own job, because it is. It is your own business, and you have to see it that way. The first thing we do is have them reflect. We have them reflect on what they want to do, what they're doing, right? Really sit down and take a lot of time. I also tell people this isn't a 30-minute exercise, right? This is your life. So invest in it. Invest in it. Take time reflecting on where you are, the strengths that you have, the interests you have, the passions you have, your family. Where are you in your family dynamic, right? Are you the breadwinner? Are you the secondary? Are you the only? Where are you? Where are your children? Where are your spouses, your family, whatever your family makeup is? Really reflect on that, where they are and where they probably want to be in the next, 5 to 10 years. What is that trajectory? And I say that meaning, do you have little children that right now you maybe can stay home, but at some point they're going to school? Maybe you'll have more flexibility, or are they in high school, college? Where are you in that life dynamic? So we ask people to really spend some time doing that. And when I also say interest, I really do say, focus on what do you want to do the majority of the day? Because when you look at jobs, whether it's in a corporate or entrepreneur, of course, you're going to spend some of the time doing things that aren't your favorite, right? We have those duties and responsibilities that have to be done. But if that becomes 80% of your day, then I would ask, why did you choose that business if you're doing 80% of the day what you don't like doing? So really know what you like doing and how you like doing it. So we ask them to really spend some time reflecting on that. Then once we've come to that, okay, here's things I like, here's things I want to do, here's how I want to do it. I ask them, okay, let's now go research into the world of Google, right? Or research into your world. Who else is doing that? Because there's many individuals that are doing, while we are very unique, and I love our uniqueness, and part of our exercise is finding out your unique value. But I also say, what are others doing that is similar to you? Maybe they're not doing 100% of what you do, but they're doing 75% of what you do, maybe even 50. Go find those individuals, go find those companies, and start making that chart of what are they doing and what do you like about what they are doing, or what does Yelp like about what they're doing? What does Google say about what they're doing? And find out all of their strengths and where you stack up against that. Stack up against them in price, stack up against them in value, stack up against them in accessibility, stack up against them in diversity, inclusion. Where are you in comparing and doing that research with others? Also, understand their journey. I think a lot of us, when we get into entrepreneurship, maybe took a few courses, maybe follow a few people on Instagram or on YouTube channels and are like, I'm going to be that person. I'm going to, in 2 years, be a millionaire. Okay. That's a great goal to have, but we know that doesn't usually happen. In 2 years, you become a millionaire and all of a sudden making six figures continuously. It is a journey, and understand that journey and do that research of finding out what truly was their path. You may have one or two people that did in 2 years become a millionaire, but I assure you, you're going to have the majority that did not. But they did have growth along the way. Okay, how did they get that growth? How did they accumulate those clients? How did they maneuver through social media? Learn from others. I think a lot of times we want to jump in, Tanya, and be the executor, right? And just go out, execute, and do everything. I will tell everybody, if you have 24 hours in a day, spend 18 of them strategizing. Spend time strategizing before you execute. Really take that time to plan. Then after you've done that research, then I say, let's go into the rebuilding. And that's what we call it, Sweet but Fearless, our X3 methodology, or the 3 R's. Right? Reflect, research, and rebuild. In the rebuilding stage, what you're doing is creating that plan. You're putting together all of that great information and you're saying, now here's what I'm going to put forth. I'm going to test it out. And we say the word rebuild because usually what we go out first as an entrepreneur isn't what we end up with. I know when we started Sweet but Fearless, what we started isn't what it is today. At the core and at the essence of who we serve is how we do it has evolved. How we do it has changed. That's what we say rebuild, because you can't be so stuck to your one idea or 5 ideas that you aren't willing to be flexible and have change. Now, don't just change because one person gave you feedback and all of a sudden you're throwing out everything you believe in because of that one feedback. No, but do, if you get consistent feedback, if you're getting different information now, if the market is changing, do be open to evolving and rebuilding what you're doing. So this is how we work with individuals. We do a lot of assessment and conversation, but we also do a lot of best practice sharing. I connect a lot of individuals with others. If someone's, building up a doula practice, and I know 3 other doulas that have also went out on their own, hey, let me connect you with that. That's what we do with our Successful Women's Network, which is the umbrella for Sweet but Fearless. And we really want to connect women because we felt that would also be a differentiator when we're helping entrepreneurs, is not only to help them with a path, help them with a framework of how to be successful and coaching and feedback, but also to connect them with others. Because we too believe, like you do, Tanya, that there's so much power in women helping others. So that's how we help. And we, like I said, we do it through courses, we do it through coaching. We have a lot of trainings. I do a lot of workshops like on feedback, on how to negotiate, in many ways to help you get the skill you need in order to advance your career.
This is fabulous and so well explained too, Mary. I appreciate that. We're going to take another quick pause and I want to come back to the importance of education. I want to share an amazing opportunity, my signature event, Increase Your Income and Impact. It's happening May 31st through June 1st, of Thursday through Saturday, in person in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And this event will be infusing it with a ton of the success principles from Napoleon Hill. You will walk away after these 3 days shifting your mindset from not enough money to manifesting on the spot. You'll also learn how to get over your fear of visibility in sales so that you can have a greater impact in the world. These in-person events are life transforming, and you can now get your early bird ticket with the code LUCKY24 and save $400 for a limited time. I look forward to seeing you there. Just listen to what some of the participants have to say about it.
I'm so thrilled that I got this opportunity. Increase your income and impact with Tanya. Thank you, Tanya. What a gift. And I didn't know quite what to expect. And what I got from it is, oh my gosh, 100-fold, 1,000-fold of, number one, empowerment for myself, and number two, a wonderful women's community. Met so many just beautiful, courageous, empowered women. Your leadership and just the beauty in the spirit of everybody sharing their passion in what they want to do in their world, in their lives. And also, what is my relationship with money, which is a big one. And so I was confronted with that and have been mulling things over ever since. So thank you for that, and being uncomfortable and stretching myself. All good things for moving forward and making my vision more of a reality. So what a gift, and thank you so much to you all, and thank you, Tanya. I love you.
So Mary, you just shared with us, your methodology, that you offer all kinds of coaching, courses, all kinds of continuing education for people to evolve and learn new things so that they can do things differently. Let's talk about the importance of continuing education, whether you're in corporate or you're an entrepreneur. What's your take on it?
Oh my gosh, Tanya, you're looking at someone who truly believes in continuous education, continuous learning. My path, when I started, I finished my master's and then immediately went into teaching, and then eventually to Charles Schwab, into the financial industry. So I had finished my education early on. I went back to back to back. So I then had this stretch of time where I was, certainly consuming lots of information about the financial industry, getting licenses, et cetera, but I wasn't in a formal education anymore. And I really started missing that out. And for about 15 years, I was just, gathering accreditation in the financial industry. And I realized when I started working at another company at Vanguard, the Vanguard group, that, I'm looking around and I'm starting, to become, more millennials are coming in, more Gen Z are coming into the workplace. And I'm like, they're just fresh out of school and they have these great new ideas. I want to make sure I'm staying current. And certainly companies would sponsor you to go to different conferences. But one of my colleagues told me about her opportunity to get continuing ed at a university. And so when she told me about that, I said, well, I'm going to ask my boss. So I put forward a plan and I said, look, I already have my master's and I know you aren't going to sponsor me to get my MBA because it's very similar, but I would like to continue my growth through executive courses at Harvard. And I put forward the plan of how I'd like to do that and what I would like to accomplish, and attending a women's conference. And she said yes. And next thing you know, I'm there at Harvard enjoying, 2-3 weeks at symposiums and gathering information and learning from instructors and professors that are globally recognized, all with books, all great discussions with women from all over the world. That really propelled me forward even more. Not only did it nurture what I wanted, but it also said to me, if you want continuing ed and you're working in a corporation, ask for it. Ask for it. All they could say is no. I mean, okay, if she said no, I would have been like, all right, well, what can you say yes to? Because then I'll take that. I don't need that.
Can I pause you there 1 second, Mary? Because to me, it seems like the common thing to do. I'm like you. I have that same personality. That's why I think, the Courage to Be podcast. But for someone that might be listening, they might be thinking like, well, that's impossible. My employer's never going to give me that. Or like, for example, I'm hosting an event at the end of May, and I was going to do it on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday versus on the weekend. And I'm getting several people like, oh, I can't take those days off from work, and I'm like, it just doesn't register for me. I'm like, why? Why can't you have a conversation with your employer that this is advancing your education? Maybe they'll even sponsor it or take some vacation that, like, think outside the box. So I'm coming back to this, Mary, because you're making it sound like it's so easy and so natural
right.
to just like, you come up with this idea like, oh, I want to take some extra courses in Harvard. How does one muster up the courage to do this, Mary?
I'm so glad you stopped me, Tanya, because I say it now as a matter of fact, and I should step back and make sure, definitely I heard it from a friend. And so let me back that up. When I was talking to my colleague and I was noticing that her acumen had changed a little bit at the table, I noticed that she kind of elevated her presence. And I was asking her, I said, hey, I'm noticing this. This is really wonderful. What did you do? Right? Because this is great. She told me. And I said, oh, how did you do it? So this is what I say to all of the women listening and men. Ask others. This is that research part of the RX3. When you see something that you admire, when you look around, ask them, how did they acquire that skill? How did they get there on their journey? Ask them for that information. People love telling their stories. It's like you love, right? We love having guests on our podcast. People like sharing their story, especially if we believe it can help another person. So not only do you get that information, but also when you join a corporation, I would say ask, what is that benefit? Many companies offer educational benefits. And a lot of times, if either you already have a advanced degree or the maybe certifications that you need for your job, maybe you think there's nothing else I can get. There is. Many times you can really just secure your communication skills. You can take courses to help your leadership agility, maybe adapt with a project management. So the first thing I would say to people is do the research. What is it that's going on and what they offer? And then always create the plan to ask. I did skip that step. I definitely have my own career planning, and my boss, we've had these multiple conversations about how I want to grow or what I want to do or the exposure I want. And so finding out how what you want over here with the continuing ed supports that so that you can help them draw that line, right? We're always talking about me maybe pivoting into project management. So here's this project management institute course I would like to take. I believe this could support this. Here's how it can help me. Here's how it can help the company. Here's how it can help you. Teeing it up so it's easy for them to say yes is number one.
Brilliant. I love that, Mary, because I think that's the missing gap for many people. Like they haven't tapped into their imagination, which goes back a little bit to what you were saying before about reflection, ask questions. Right. I do believe that we make over 30,000 decisions a day, and 90% of them are in automatic. And so we have taken ourselves out of learning how to think. We don't think anymore. We don't tap into our imagination. And so that is just brilliant how you expose that, because I think it's so important for us to pause, like, okay, I want this goal. I want to take that particular class, or I want to do that advanced degree, or whatever it is, and think about the plan of how you're going to ask. That was brilliant, Mary. Thank you for sharing that, because that's going to help me help other people too, of just like, oh yeah, I didn't think of that. Like, how do you lay it out so that it's a yes for the employer? Like, oh my God, that's brilliant. I didn't even think about it. You came with a problem, you came with a solution. Yes, here's the money. Go take your class. That is just great. Thank you for that share.
Well, Tanya, let me add one more thing, if I may, Tanya,
yeah,
on that.
please.
And that is, you mentioned a lot of women, we just do, right? We are out there so busy doing and executing that we don't often take the step back to reflect on how we did it. And I think that's where most entrepreneurs excel, right? Is that they stepped back and said, how did I create this process so I can help others? And they take the doing and turn it into the how, right? They go through it step by step, because that's what so many individuals are looking for. And they're saying, help me do it. And if you take that time to step back and reflect on actually how you do something, you will find a pattern in your life. You will find a pattern that supports your own personality, your own passions, and then it will be very natural for you. So I just want to make sure you know that it's exactly right. A lot of times we just go out and do it, or we say, well, I just asked. Well, you actually did a lot more than just ask. You had a plan and you went through it.
That is great too, of just paying attention to our patterns, because you were saying that, because oftentimes we just do an automatic, we're just not autopilot. And so I think that's important to pay attention to the patterns that we're doing. What I'm getting out of all of this, Mary, as I'm having the conversation with you, is the importance of spending some of that time reflecting and analyzing our behaviors, tapping into our imagination, reflection, like, okay, do I sit down? And how do you do it? I mean, I know for me, it works. I journal every morning, I meditate, I visualize, like there's a certain pattern of rituals. A lot of my ideas and reflection come through my journaling. And sometimes I do get intuitive hits just because I do allow space for reflection, like whether it's going and taking a bath, hanging out in the hot tub, going for a walk in nature, whatever it is, you're allowing space where you're not bombarding and letting, all information coming in. What kind of habits do you have in place to allow for reflection, for your intuition to come in? Like, what are some of your tricks or tips in that area?
So coming from a large family, my energy comes, Tanya, from people. So I'm that person who can, frankly, think while everybody's talking because I had to do that growing up. So I learned how to do that, and meaning absorbing information from others. So when I'm reflecting, not only am I listening to myself, but I've learned I have to listen to others as well. Because probably what I didn't do as much was listen to others, right? And thought I kind of knew it all. So I definitely learned how to say, okay, maybe I know what I want, but do I really know what's best if I don't, become more inclusive and get the thoughts and ideas from others? So when you talk about a pattern, I quickly realized I'm not a big journaler. I am more of a competitive person. So a lot of my thoughts come when I'm doing something, whether it's playing tennis, playing pickleball, or doing something out in the community is when I'm absorbing a lot of information from others and absorbing information about myself. So that's how I spend time gathering. It's by doing what I like and then really reflecting how I felt about that situation afterward. And I also added something to it that I learned from Maya Angelou and from reading a lot of her poems and books, and that is reflecting more on how others felt about themselves after leaving an interaction with me. Early on in my career, I thought more about me. How did I feel about something? And I certainly learned to adapt if I wanted to be a better leader and learn what do individuals think about themselves after leaving an interaction with me. And when I reflected more on that, that is when that propelled me to much more success. So I started adding that a little bit more into how I create that pattern and purpose for myself.
That is brilliant. Thank you for that, Mary. Wow, this has been fabulous. Where can people find you? How can we get into your community, into your world?
Yeah, everything we do is on our website, sweetbutfearless.com. We make it simple for you guys, sweetbutfearless.com. You can find everything there. You can find all of our blogs, our trainings, our courses, our podcasts, and more information about us and how to connect with us. We'd love to have you visit, but sweetbutfearless.com is exactly where you can find us.
Perfect. And we'll put it in the show notes too. And as we wrap up, what's one thing our listeners can do to live a life with more courage?
We talked about this. I mean, courage is just so important to me because it's also belief and courage in yourself, right? To have that courage in yourself, but also courage for others. So the one thing I would say is definitely have courage for yourself, but also have courage for others. Sometimes you need to be the one stepping up to say, I believe so much in myself that I'm also going to share this courage with others that you too can achieve the success that you want. If, again, you follow these plans, right? Whatever your plan may be, but have a plan. I'll definitely say you just have to have one. So I think what I leave for others is as you're building that courage within yourself, share it with others, uplift others around you.
Thank you so much, Mary. That was great. Thanks for your time with us.
Thank you, Tanya.
Hi there. I have something really cool for you. I want to give you free access to my signature course called Manifesting Abundance, which typically sells for $997. You can check out all the details in the show notes, and all you have to do to gain access is leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, take a snapshot of it, and send it to help.thecouragetobe@gmail.com, and we'll get you set up with access to the course.